Good Thursday morning. It is 4:25 a.m. here in the Eastern Time Zone of the United States. It is Thursday, May 4th, 2023. Today, we are going to finish chapter 9 in the book of Genesis. And before I start, so this chapter, or this part of the chapter, really leaves me personally with more questions than answers, but I will try to do my best through what I've read and different translations and from different commentators and just the way that I see this passage. I'll try to unpack it. My wife will love that in a way that makes sense and really applies to us. So I'm going to read it from the New King James Version, which is pretty much my go-to, but also there are some ways that it's translated in the NIV, in the New Living Translation, and in the Amplified Translation that I think help to explain some things. So, starting in verse 18. Now, the sons of Noah, and this is right after, by the way, God had talked yesterday. We talked about the rainbow and how God had set it as his covenant, and he had told Noah and his sons to go and be fruitful and multiply. So, starting in verse 18, now the sons of Noah who went out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. Now, that's going to be important. These were the three sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was populated. And Noah began to be a farmer and planted a vineyard. Then he drank of the wine and was drunk and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and he told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on their shoulders, and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. Then he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants. He shall be to his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. All right, so weird story, right? This is one of those stories that's in the Bible that to me lets us know that this is real. That this, if you were going to try to win somebody to something, if somebody were going to try to win somebody or some people to this idea that God is who God is, and that you would want to follow God, you probably wouldn't put this story in there because this is like a bad soap opera story. So I'm going to go through these, section by section and just try to, again, unpack and unfold it. So we see twice in this that when it mentions Ham as the father of Canaan. So Ham had a lot of kids, but there's one son, Canaan, and we're going to read a lot more about Canaan and his descendants as we read through the Old Testament and even some of the New. It's mentioned, but there seems to be a specific reason that that Canaan is mentioned as being Ham's son, and that Ham is mentioned as being Canaan's father specifically. So we see that this is the first place that wine is mentioned, or any alcohol of any kind is mentioned in the Bible. So it seems, by the way that I logically believe it, that some times pass. Obviously, it takes a while to grow, to plant and grow grapes. It takes a while longer than that for grapes to be fermented. It seems that perhaps this is the first time any fruit has been fermented. So it appears that Noah didn't make this to go get drunk, that he perhaps didn't even understand what these fermented grapes, what this alcohol was. So it looks like, and this is one of those things that I've talked about before about the difference between falling into sin and jumping into sin. It looks like he fell into this. He fell into the sin of drunkenness. He probably didn't mean to drink until he was drunk. He liked the taste, right? And he had probably had grape juice before, but not this fermented stuff. So that appears to be not a purposeful sin on the part of Noah. Where we get into a lot more questions, but it appears to give us some answers by the way that Noah reacted, is that it appears, so it says that Noah was in his tent. He wasn't out in the open. So, there's a song, country song that's out there that I thought about this, and that's the way my weird mind works. And it's Tequila Makes Her Clothes Fall Off, I think is the name of the song, or one of the lines in it. Alcohol affects different people differently. And apparently somehow Noah ended up taking his clothes off, but it is really important to notice that he was inside his tent. He was in a place where he was covered and he was in privacy, what out in the open in front of everybody. So if no one had entered the tent, then no one would have known it. Now, don't know where his wife was. So who knows? And I don't know if this was night or day. It doesn't really say, because it just says that he awoke from his wine. So who knows? It could have been early in the morning. It could have been during the day that this happened. And then he woke up in the afternoon, which would maybe explain why his wife wasn't there. But it appears that all three of his brothers were outside the tent. And for whatever reason, Ham went in. Now, he probably didn't have any ill intentions for going into the tent, but when he went in, his reaction is what the issue was. We are either by nature modest or immodest, and immodesty seems to be one of the issues with Ham. I would say immaturity would be one of the issues with Ham. I imagine right now, if this were today, and Ham had a cell phone, Ham would have posted a video of his naked dad on TikTok. Just what came to my mind. That's something at Noah's expense, Ham exploited the situation. He saw it. He was somewhere he probably shouldn't have been in the first place, but I believe he probably saw Noah by accident. But instead of going, "Oh my goodness, that's my dad and he's in a bad place, I'm just going to go out here, I'm not going to say anything." No, he went out, and the first thing he did was start telling people. So he told his brothers, and it looks like he encouraged them, "Hey, like a drunken or like a really immature frat boy to go in and see their dad." But Shem and Japheth actually were modest, not immodest, and they did the right thing. They took crazy, extraordinary measures to try to do the right thing. They put their father's clothing on their back. They turned their backs and they backed in, not looking at him. I would imagine they kind of backed in until they kind of felt like they would know where they were, or maybe they saw his feet, and they laid down the garments over the top of Noah so that they wouldn't see his nakedness. And then they got the heck out of there. And it says that Noah awoke from his wine and knew his younger son had done what had done to him. In the NLT, it says Noah woke from his stupor and he learned what Ham, the youngest son, had done. I think that's probably, if you imagine if Ham was immature enough to go out and first thing tell his brothers, encourage them to go in, he probably went out and told a lot of people. So I would imagine that's how Noah learned. In the New King James, it just says that he knew what his younger son had done. In the other translations, it said that he learned, and I think learned probably is a better way to say that. But the biggest question here of all that stuff is, so Ham did this, but when Noah woke up, he said, "Cursed be Canaan." So not Ham who did it, but Canaan, his son. And not all of Ham's sons, but just Canaan. So apparently, it looks like that Noah saw that the flaws in Ham would really be magnified, that they'd come to full manifestation in Canaan. And we're going to read throughout the Bible that that was true. And there was a lot of things that the descendants of Canaan, the Canaanites did. They did horrible sexual sins. And all that appeared to be like you've heard the saying, maybe the sins of the father or the sins of the son. We pick up certain elements from our parents, and sometimes we pick up the better elements, and sometimes we pick up the worst elements. And it seems that of all the sons of Ham, Canaan picked up the absolute worst element, and that Noah saw. Perhaps God showed Noah that in that moment that that was the way that that was going to manifest. And then when Noah said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem," he wasn't blessing his son Shem, but he was understanding that God, he was blessing God and knowing and seeing somewhere that through Shem and through the blessing of the Lord, great things were going to happen. And it is through Shem, through Shem's line, that the Messiah, Jesus Christ, ended up being born. So great things did happen through Shem. The thing that I want to leave us with, the challenge, is this. We all make mistakes. Noah, he had just gone from, in essence, saving humanity because he was faithful and God chose him, to this stupid, horrible mistake that led to this episode. I do believe that that wasn't a purposeful mistake, and it's a great lesson for us to watch ourselves and not, to do everything we can to not make stupid mistakes. But then our lesson from Ham and our lesson from Shem and Japheth, our lesson from Ham is our reactions do have results, and they do have consequences. And we need to watch that. But the way that we live our lives, and I would think that Ham had already shown some issues, and that those issues that Ham shown were being manifested in his son Canaan. And that is an important lesson for us, that what we do affects our children. I certainly see things that I did when I was younger and mistakes that I made manifest in my children. I see the good things manifest in them as well. But I know certain decisions that they make are probably because of what they saw in me. And that's a heavy weight, but that's the thing that I think we all need to take into account. And if you are a young parent here, especially a young father, I would challenge you to really look in the virtual mirror every single day and ask yourself about your decisions and your actions and how they may, and just understand how they may be affecting and may affect your whole life of your children. And as we see, Ham's decisions did affect Canaan, and they manifested in Canaan. And because of that, the whole lineage of Canaan was really bad. So think about your decisions. That's the challenge. God, thank you for your word. Thank you for this time that you give me every morning to get to know you better, to see the lessons in your word, to see their lives and the things that they did and the way it affected, and to look in my own life and see the same. Thank you for loving us enough that even though you are as great as you are, and even though we are as foul as we are, that you gave your son so that we could have a relationship with you. I would just ask that you hear our prayer, that you forgive anything that we have done, even the thought life that we have that doesn't honor you. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. I left that link to Radius. Last night we had a great event in this amphitheater in Lexington, South Carolina. We fasted for the day. We fasted from our dinner on Tuesday to our dinner last night with our church brothers and sisters. And I had a great time, and we met some new folks, and we got to pray with a couple that we'd met. And that was an awesome experience. I wish that for all of you. Everybody have a great day.